He was harsh with his little son when the boy came home with really low grades on his report card. But when he discovered what those grades meant, his world fell apart and he was deeply regretful. It was a day like any other. Frank, the tireless construction worker, was coming home from work, carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. His sweat-soaked shirt clung to his dust and sun-marked skin. The constant noise of jackhammers and concrete mixers still echoed in his ears even after leaving the site. That particular day, everything seemed to have gone wrong on the construction site. A delay in cement delivery, an accident with one of the helpers, a mistake in the plan that caused a newly built wall to be demolished. When he got home, the first thing he did was open the refrigerator, hoping to find something to satisfy his voracious hunger. However, upon opening the door, his heart sank. The empty shelves reflected the harshness of his reality. He should have gone to the market after work, but the chaos at the site made him forget. "Ah, damn it. Everything goes wrong in this house," he grumbled, punching the air in frustration. His wife was working at the house of an elderly lady she took care of at night, so she also couldn't do the shopping. Amid his irritation, the honking of his son's school van broke into his bitter thoughts. He had called his friend, the vehicle's driver, pleading for him to bring his little boy home since he would be late due to work. Little Sam, only 6 years old, ran into the house with a backpack nearly as big as his body, swaying from side to side with each step. The child's joy contrasted sharply with his father's somber mood. Sam ran up and hugged Frank's legs, babbling excitedly about his day. The man replied dryly, "That's great, son. Now go take a shower. I'll make us a grilled cheese sandwich." "Is it going to be just cheese?" asked the little boy, his innocent eyes sparkling. "Yeah, just cheese. We couldn't buy anything else." "Go take your shower, come on." As Frank turned to prepare the simple meal, Sam began to insist that he look at the paper he brought from school. The construction worker, already drained, was reluctant but finally took the paper from his son's hands. "Are you crazy, kid? What kind of grade is this?" exploded the man, looking at his son with anger. "But Daddy," Sam started, but was interrupted. "Don't talk back. You don't talk back, boy. You've screwed up," said the father, pulling off his slipper to discipline the boy. "It's not that," the boy tried to explain, but it was in vain. Frank slapped the boy and sent him to his room. "Go to your room now. You'll be without the grilled cheese as punishment. I want you to bury your face in the books until tomorrow, you hear? I don't ever want to see you pulling a 5 again," he yelled as the little boy went to his room with tears streaming down his face. And it continued, "Do you have any idea how hard I work for you to show me this crap? I'm not killing myself to raise a mediocre child." The silence in the small apartment was broken only by the muffled sobbing of a little boy in his room and the grinding of an enraged father's teeth. Poor man, poor boy. Frank was a simple man of noble soul, his hands calloused from labor and sweat, not the image that had formed there. He loved his son deeply. He was strict, true, but always with the intention of guiding little Sam toward a better future, unlike his own. He himself had never gone beyond high school, becoming a construction worker like his father and grandfather before him. His life was marked by the aridity of the cement, the smell of mortar, and the rough texture of bricks. He was a man defined by effort and the fatigue that always seemed to accumulate. He saw in the little boy a chance to change the family's fate, a chance to break the cycle of deprivation. It was not rare that after an exhausting day, he would pick up Sam in his arms, meet his eyes, and say with an exhausted but firm voice, "You want to have a nice, fancy house and a well-paying job, son? Then you have to study. Look at your dad. I didn't study, and this is what I have today." Sam was a sweet, innocent boy who admired his father in a way only a son could. He didn't fully understand the dynamics of life but knew he wanted to be strong and brave like Frank. Occasionally, when a new toy sparked his desire, like a Spider-Man action figure, for example, and he asked his father to buy it with shining eyes, the man would explain, "See, that's why you have to study, my son. And study a lot. Go to college and everything. Because when you want to buy something, you'll have the money. I can't buy you this toy, but one day you'll be able to buy it for your son." And Sam, always understanding, didn't throw a tantrum. Instead, he was inspired by his father's strength and focused on his studies. He always got good grades, but like any child, had his ups and downs. Frank also never managed to attend parent-teacher meetings at the school. Work on the site always seemed more urgent. He entrusted these tasks to his wife, Mary, a woman of unwavering faith and generous heart. She didn't have an academic education like her husband but possessed the gift of care and worked as a caregiver for the elderly on a shift basis, one day on, one day off. Life for that family was hard, however, they never lost hope. The love they held for each other sustained them, and the belief that Sam would become a successful man was the driving force that propelled them all. Thus, the next day, a tranquil dawn caressed the small brick apartment, contrasting with the heavy atmosphere that had settled since the previous evening. Despite the serene scene, an unsettling feeling hovered over the family home like a dense fog of something unresolved. The little boy awoke that morning with a maturity imposed by circumstances. He dressed himself, prepared his little backpack, and sat at the kitchen table with his eyes downcast and quiet. Frank, too, was awake, although his heavy eyes revealed a sleepless night, as thoughts whirled in his mind, full of remorse and regret. With a stomach twisted with guilt, the man called his son to breakfast. The silence was palpable, heavy as a burden, yet necessary. Frank was not proud of his behavior the previous night, but he knew dwelling on guilt would solve nothing. I need to be more for him than my father was for me, he reflected, holding the coffee cup in his calloused hands. On the table was fresh bread, ham, butter, and a glass of milk with chocolate for the boy, the fruits of the construction worker's trip to the bakery before Sam woke up. He wanted to make up somehow for the simple grilled cheese the little boy hadn't had the night before. Although it was a simple gesture, it carried significant weight for both. Frank tried to start a conversation, but the words seemed to choke in his throat. "Look, I bought ham," he said, almost whispering. The little one just nodded, still maintaining the silence, looking at his plate. After breakfast, the father drove the son to school. The journey was quiet, only the sound of the old car, almost falling apart, filled the void between them. At the school gate, he looked at Sam, the boy's eyes reflecting the morning sunlight. "Sorry, big guy," he said, trying to mask the emotion in his voice. "But Daddy wants you to study hard, okay? To get good grades." Sam just felt him, looking at him with those eyes full of a precocious understanding. He entered the school, leaving Frank with his thoughts and silent promises. After dropping his son off at school and returning home, the man saw Mary returning from work. The woman, tired but always smiling, brought a moment of tranquility that seemed to ease the husband's worries. He smiled, approached her, and asked, "Hey, love, how was last night?" The woman looked at him, tired but with a slight smile on her face. "It was exhausting," she began, taking off her coat and hanging it on the kitchen chair. "Mrs. Leocadia had food poisoning, I think. She ate something she shouldn't have. I spent the night taking care of her." The husband felt a twinge in his chest. Despite his frustrations and stress, he couldn't help but feel a bit guilty for his wife's tiredness. "That's tough. But she'll be okay, right?" he asked, concerned. "Only time will tell. But she's strong. Besides, Rosa, the other caregiver, will take care of her today." "Don't worry," Mary replied with a serenity that calmed Frank's heart. But then she changed her tone of voice, suddenly becoming animated. "But what about you? How was yesterday?" the wife asked with a sparkle in her eyes. The man frowned, confused. "It was a normal day. Just that Sam came home with his report card," he said casually. Mary smiled even more. "And? What did you think?" "He was so happy and excited to show you," she exclaimed, clearly excited about the news. "What do you mean? You didn't see his grades?" "It was all 5s, all mediocre. I got very upset. You know I'm not raising a mediocre child. This kid has to know the value of studying. Only then will he be someone in life. That's why I hit him. I put him in timeout," confessed the construction worker, with a shadow of regret in his voice. Mary, previously smiling, now seemed to be in shock. "What? Frank, have you gone mad? Did you see what was written on the report card?" "It was for you," she said, almost unable to believe what she was hearing. He felt a knot forming in his throat. "What do you mean?" "It was the quarterly report card, wasn't it?" he asked, confused. "No, love." "Oh, you didn't even read it." The caregiver stood up, irritated. muttering about how the husband was always so absent even when he was present. "You never pay attention to anything." "Damn, what anger," she exclaimed, her confusion on her face turning into despair. "It was a Father's Day report card, giving you a grade as a father," Mary yelled, and the words hit the husband like a punch in the stomach. With his eyes wide, Frank ran through the house in search of the report card he had carelessly dropped somewhere. When he found it, his heart ached as he read the words, "To the best dad in the world, grade 5, excellent," read aloud as if the paper itself could feel the weight of his guilt. Frank held the report card in his hands as if it were a fragile relic. He could feel the words written by his own son piercing his soul like sharpened daggers. Time seemed to have stopped. Every memory, every scene with his little Sam relived in his mind, clear as day, as if everything was happening in just 1 second. He could see his little boy's smiling face, his eyes shining with a light that only a child could have, as he hugged his legs. The first note of the report card was like a punch in the stomach, making the air seem heavier. The words echoed in his mind like a whirlwind. He was so happy. Was that why? The man wondered, with memories of the previous night returning with crushing force. The image of little Sam insisting he look at his report card was etched in his mind. Frank's shout, a rough and cruel sound, seemed to resonate in the silent room. The confused and sad expression of the little boy. "I didn't even let him explain," he thought, and the first hot tears began to flow down his face. "Before bed, 5. The simple and so meaningful phrase made that robust man sob like a little child. Arthur's radiant smile when he finished each story, those precious moments they shared. Time continued to stand still as if the entire universe was waiting for Frank to understand the magnitude of his mistake. Grade for how much time my dad spends with me, even when he's tired from work. Yes, he remembered the times his son snuggled up to his side, even after a long day at the construction site, just to be close to him. But the memory that hurt the most, that really tore at his heart, was when he saw himself hitting his little boy. The expression of fear and confusion was enough to make him fall to his knees. "No," whispered that poor man, poor father. The tears now flowed freely, like a river of remorse and pain. "Grade for how much I love my dad, 5. Frank's heart seemed to be breaking. The simplicity of his little boy's declaration of love, even after what he had done, was more than he could bear. He crouched on the floor, holding the report card as if it were his last thread of sanity. The tears did not spare the paper, staining the words written by little Sam, but the construction worker didn't care. All that mattered was the crushing pain in his chest, the realization of how far he had gone, and the unconditional love of his little boy. Mary ran to her husband's side, her face flooded with concern. He looked up at her, his eyes red and filled with tears, conveying more remorse than any words could express. She could see the deep, raw pain, a feeling so intense that it seemed shared by both. "I hit him, love," said the man, his voice broken by sobs. He went to bed crying. "I thought, my God, what have I done?" His sobs muffled the words, making them almost incomprehensible. The remorse he felt was palpable, like a heavy veil that covered the room. The wife looked into his eyes, feeling his anguish and the weight of the guilt. She put her hands on his shoulders, trying to convey some comfort. "We're going to fix this, dear. We'll do it together, as always," she said with a firm voice despite the emotion. They hugged, seeking comfort in each other. The crying of that poor, broken father gradually diminished, giving way to a new determination. He would correct his mistake, become the father he always wanted to be, unlike his own. He would not allow his son's innocent glow to be overshadowed by the harshness of life as had happened to him when his father treated him with contempt. Inspired by this renewed determination, Mary suggested that they prepare a surprise for their little boy. With a smile, Frank agreed. They wiped their tears and together, with a new and positive energy, went out to buy things and pick up Sam from school. The little boy was head down when he came out of the school building, the sadness clearly visible on his little face. But seeing his parents so excited and smiling, a wrinkle of confusion formed on his forehead. "You guys look so happy," he asked, with a hint of curiosity in his voice. Frank crouched down and opened his arms, enveloping little Sam in a tight hug. "Buddy," he began, somewhat embarrassed but moved, "I loved the Father's Day report card. Everything that happened yesterday, that was a big misunderstanding, son. And I have a surprise for you at home." The boy's eyes lit up with surprise and joy, immediately forgetting his initial sadness. When they got home, he encountered a colorful cake, balloons scattered around every corner, and there was the Spider-Man action figure he so wanted. Frank knelt before his little boy once more, holding the small hands of his son. "I'm so sorry, champ. I love you so much," he said. And he said something the man could not have imagined. "I love you too, Daddy. Even without all this, you're still the best dad in the world." These words made Wagner's heart warm even more, and joy and relief took over his expression. Mary, watching everything from the side, felt tears slide down her cheeks. It was a simple scene but one of deep, sincere love. After cutting the cake and celebrating together, they spent the rest of the afternoon in joyful coexistence, enjoying that moment with family that, despite all adversities, showed the true essence of love and unity. And so the house was once again filled with laughter, happiness, and above all, love between a father and his son. What do you think of this story? Do you think they acted right? Leave your comment below to know your opinion. It is very important to us. If you liked this exciting story, help us by leaving a like and subscribing to our channel. Thank you very much for watching us and see you in the next story.